Resident Evil is one of the longest-running survival horror series in the industry. Is its newest entry, Village, aka Resident Evil 8, any good? What does it contribute to the franchise, and what does it do completely differently? This is a brief, impressionistic review based on 30 hours of gameplay. Let's find out. Village follows as a direct sequel to the prior game Resident Evil 7. It also comes after not one, but two classic Resident Evil game remakes, 2 and 3. The first thing to notice is how consciously Village sets itself apart from those more traditional style Resident Evil games. There's no Raccoon City, no standard zombies, not even much Chris Redfield or Umbrella Corp. Clearly, the closest analog with Village has to be Resident Evil 4. Yes, Capcom have broadcast their intentions of remaking that game too, but fortunately, Village retains a lot of 4's look and feel without becoming entirely derivative or uninteresting on its own terms. Village may bring back some nostalgia for 4, but ultimately it's got what Resident Evil 4 arguably didn't and Resident Evil 7 did: strong characters. 7's focus on family dynamics and most of all its unique comedy horror tone are both back with a vengeance. At its best then, Village is the evil love child of 7 and 4. You reprise the role of 7's Ethan Winters, who must brave the dark corridors and passageways of the titular village to rescue his stolen infant daughter, Rose. Right away, Village grounds itself in the fairy tale genre. The game plays out with a surrealism and sometimes even dream logic I can't say I've seen from Resident Evil as a series before, and I think it's awesome. Enchanting, even. For years, Resident Evil was one half of an important dichotomy in Japanese horror games. While it was known for body horror, its rival sister series, Silent Hill, was more known for psychological scares. While the death of Silent Hill and abortion of Hideo Kojima's planned entry, Silent Hills, have both clearly left an enduring mark on their old rival. Even more than 7, which began the era of first-person Resident Evils after failed, less successful first attempts like Resident Evil Survivor, Village really leans into PT-like elements. Now messing with our minds more like Silent Hill than a typical Resident Evil game, often Village makes great use of sound and atmosphere and the limited first-person view. There are certain sections we don't find any enemies or use any weapons in Village, something earlier Resident Evils would have ruled out categorically from the very start. Personally, I liked this zombie-like feasting on Silent Hill's corpse. Traces of what could have been Silent Hills live on in its children like Village, making the entire Resident Evil series, if not the entire genre of horror in video games, stronger as a result. This isn't a Kojima-directed Silent Hill, but it's not nothing. After all, one thing Village uses those Silent Hill elements to build to I couldn't see working in any Silent Hill game is the thing that I may also like the most about Village: its internet-ready, meme-worthy tone. Creating game characters and storylines is different in the Web 2.0 age, it seems. Characters and scenes enter the public discourse instantaneously, even as they're still being experienced by players for the first time. Clips, images, and GIFs often sever source material from their original contexts, meaning a single scene has to be crafted, keeping multiple possible contexts in mind. This at bottom is what makes a thing meme-worthy, whether or not it has cross-applications, and Village is certainly meme-worthy. Is this scene terrifying, arousing, or hilarious? In Village, often the answer is all three. The same giant woman who terrorizes you, caught in the eye of photo mode, suddenly becomes sexually charged, or suddenly delivers a line with enough camp and scenery-chewing intensity that you just have to burst out laughing. One minute we're identifying with Ethan's struggles to save his family, the next we're groaning and rolling our eyes at his impossibly but intentionally bad B-movie action hero guff. It's a very delicate line to walk, a line between sincerity and artifice, humor and horror, light and shade. Maybe the first horror game to introduce this approach was Swery's Deadly Premonition back in 2010. I was certainly thinking of that game more than a few times playing Resident Evil 8. Except quite unlike Deadly Premonition, Village looks and plays fantastically well. It's a given this kind of tone is not for everyone. But Resident Evil games have always been known, at least in the West, for campy, hammy, melodramatic stories. I like that, rather than shying away from this expectation and trying to be cool. Like Resident Evil 5 or 6, Capcom have embraced their flagship horror series for all its foibles. The result is a tone of horror very few other titles have experimented with, reminiscent more to me of late 20th century cinematic, splatter comedy, horror hybrids like American Werewolf in London, Evil Dead, or Brain Dead. Apart from the aforementioned influence played by PT, I was surprised to encounter many references by Village to Death Stranding, too. There's also shades of other games here, like BioShock Infinite and Bloodborne, not to mention earlier Resident Evils, of course. Village not only crams itself with outrageous characters and scenarios, but also quality action horror gameplay, which often draws from the series' traditions while expanding them in new ways. I was amazed to see old traditions and restrictions partially reworked by Village. Now sometimes, for example, you can buy ammo. There's a hybrid health system that combines the traditional Resident Evil health gauge with a regenerating threshold. Getting out of the danger zone merely takes avoiding further damage for a little bit of time. But doing this only gets you off death's door. Full healing still takes a good old green herb, even if it's just one ingredient now in your new health tonics. The Resident Evil 4 model of economics and gun customization returns in full force, now with a thematically resonant addition of feeding. Apart from treasure, now players also must keep their eyes peeled for wild game, which once slain can become ingredients for a permanent stat-boosting dish. Like 4, all these emergent player actions are largely overseen by a mysterious vendor.
Do let me know if you find anything else of value.
Except this time, he's a corpulent, creepy, cherubic caravaner who groans and moans off screen like Quiet in the ACC doing yoga.
Long ago, a young girl went with her mother to pick berries for her father, who was hard at work. But the forest greeted them with a dark, cold silence. The bushes empty. Yet determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free of Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees.
From the 30 or so hours I've spent inside the Village, it's gotta be one of the best Resident Evils I've played in years. I highly recommend it. Just don't develop a fetish for giant women, okay? Until next time, boss.